There was nothing but a beautiful scenery as far as the eye could see. The gigantic tree was looking at the view as having some deep thoughts. Suddenly, he remembered the past that brought back a sad memory. It was 10 years ago already. All at once, the oasis was destroyed. The migratory birds sank into deep despair and lost their lives. At that time, if I could promise this new oasis that I'm seeing right in front of me, maybe they didn't have to die. The thought occupied his mind constantly. It was as if he had a chronic disease that would never be cured. On that day, he decided to build a nation because he thought that it was the only way to create a prosperous world that could go beyond the law of nature. A predator and a prey. A consumer and a provider. There's nothing right or wrong when each individual acts on its instinct. However, there is a case that we just can't offer our own lives or creation unconditionally. When two different wills have conflict and no one could find any compromise, it is necessary to have a power to fight against the force of the other group so that we can protect the world we belong to. In order to do so, he concluded that bringing diversities into the oasis was the only solution. The first step to rebuild the oasis started with a task to gather more members of the group. There was only one condition to be a part of the members. Every day, you need to do something for others. The migratory birds flew away in 4 different directions and told about the oasis to everyone. They sometimes flew over the mountain where snow never melted through the year to search for their new members. Day by day, the number of the members in the oasis increased. Eventually, everyone started to call the gigantic tree a king. Fresh foods were gathered in an open space in the oasis. They were so fresh that all the foods were sparkling in the sunlight. The place was filled with the fruits that were gathered from all over the world. These fruits were gathered in the place for some members who couldn't climb a tree. It was the consequence of their act which was triggered by the idea of doing for the members. The one who ate grass that stole nutrition from young fruit trees so that they could thrive. The one who was in charge of expanding the oasis. one who controlled the quality of water by adjusting the amount of water plants and algae. That one who shared information by communicating with various members every day. By doing something that they could do for others, the very peaceful and contented world was created in the absence of conflict. All the inhabitants of the oasis were happy and proud to live there. There was one turtle and one elephant beside the king. They were too old to do any physical work. However, they were the only ones who had an enormous amount of knowledge that was gained from their experiences over many decades. Your Majesty, we should not accept them. Life is certainly a precious thing, but once we accept them, we will need to accept more and more of them every time. We will be able to manage to accept them this time. However, when the third or fourth group arrives here, we will have food shortages. The turtle frowned as he was mentioning it. His words carried considerable weight. Nobody could easily go against it. The elephant raised his voice as taking the side of the turtle. Your Majesty, everyone needs to be competent to become the inhabitants of the oasis. Do you believe that these fugitives are competent enough to live in this oasis? They lived in the world of commands and obedience. They didn't have the opportunity to learn how to be independent. They will never be able to fit into this oasis. The king was listening to the words of the two wise men in silence. They were in the middle of a discussion to decide what to do with the refugees who came to the oasis from the East Country 3 days ago. The number of the refugees was twice larger than the inhabitants of the oasis. They were still waiting outside of the oasis at this moment. They could not make the refugees wait any longer. If they keep the refugees waiting in such severe environment, some of them would eventually end up being sick or dying. I want to save all the refugees. That's what the king was thinking, but he also understood what the two wise men were saying. In the middle of the discussion among the king and the two wise men, one fox showed up. Your Majesty, I have a favor to ask you. There is my distant relative and her family in those refugees. She's my grandmother's sister's granddaughter's husband's second cousin. She's with her family. They are my distant relatives and we are not related by blood. I've never seen them either, but they are certainly my relatives. If I abandon my relatives, I will not be able to live my life with pride as an inhabitant of the oasis anymore. So please accept my relatives' family to be a part of us. The king didn't mention anything while listening to the fox. Then he told the fox to dismiss. My dear two wise men, I decided to accept all the refugees so that the inhabitants of the oasis can maintain their pride. As both of you pointed out, all kinds of problems will arise. However, I believe that we will be able to solve any issues. I depend on your knowledge and wisdom. The two wise men agreed with a smile on their faces. Our king made the decision because he is ready for any circumstances. The two wise men started to discuss about the future. They never clung to their own opinions. Instead, they were able to have a constructive debate for the future. That was the reason why they were chosen as wise men.